Hello everybody, what's happening? Once again, here to help you guys out because with this writer and actor strike that's going on currently, there might not be a lot of new TV content coming out anytime soon. So, in the meantime, I have compiled a list of about 23 television shows on HBO that I have watched, and we're gonna tier rank them because that's what we do in 2023, right? Tier Maker kindly puts these in alphabetical order as they're compiled, and here's my list of 23 shows we'll go through. Starting at the front then would just be Band of Brothers. So this is actually an older one. One I watched as a teenager. The story, actually kind of a, I wouldn't say historical account of Easy Company, of Army Rangers in the European theater of war, World War II. Produced by Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg, I want to say. Actually has a pretty all-star cast. Before Damian Lewis went on to Billions, he starred as Major Richard Winters, Dick Winters in of Easy Company. It came out shortly after Saving Private Ryan and is very Saving Private Ryan-esque in its realism and just kind of narrative style. Check it out if that's your kind of thing. It's honestly not bad. It's quite good. So that is where I'm going to put it. Next is Barry. Okay, here is our first amazing would recommend this is top tier HBO. Unquestionably, Bill Hader and what he does in this show. Oh my gosh, it's so good. What would you call this one? Like a dramedy, black comedy, maybe? Bill Hader's character Barry is a former U.S. Marine who served in the Iraq War, I want to say, or was it Afghanistan? One of the two. And discharged, he's now trying to break into Hollywood as an actor with, you know, no training. So he enlists in an acting class where Henry Winkler is the acting teacher, Gene Cousineau, and he uses some brutal methods for acting training. Not things that you would ever learn in any kind of like professional acting class or like any higher institution, like higher academics. Like this is not how acting is taught, and he punishes his students. It's really such good writing though. At times the show is just unique and weird and special in just such a wonderful way. Like, you feel awkward as the viewer. I don't know. You just have to watch it to understand, but it's worth it. It's also just a clever commentary about Hollywood as well. Maybe particularly appropriate for these times. So just a really good show. Check it out. Okay. Big Little Lies. So I mostly just really loved the Carmel by the Sea, Monterey, Central California setting of this one. And it is about 5 women who effectively become embroiled in a murder investigation. And they are big name actresses with Shailene Woodley, Zoe Kravitz, Nicole Kidman, Reese Witherspoon, and Laura Dern. And then in the second season, Nicole Kidman's mother-in-law, Meryl Streep, joins the cast. Really pretty good. I liked this one. I would still probably put it middle of the road though. It is the acting talent that really makes this one shine, with Alexander Skarsgård and Adam Scott bringing up the supporting cast. It's actually based on a novel of the same name from 2014, I want to say. Leanne Moriarty. Middle of the road for the story. Acting is phenomenal. Story is... yeah. Alright, Doom Patrol. This one I wanted to like a lot more than I actually did, just because of the Grant Morrison comic that it's based off of. I never read the comic, but I love Grant Morrison as a graphic novelist. He is a pretty talented writer. It ended up just feeling very sci-fi channel-ish. How do I say that? Very kind of mediocre quality in its production. Very studio produced. That's what I would say. Much of the acting is also quite decent, but the storyline drags on after a while. It's very Morrison-esque in its kind of quirky, mystic, sci-fi. The character of Jane is quite very provocative in its examination of multiple personality disorder. But as the seasons went on, I just did not finish this one. This is probably a meh for me. I think it's similar in tone and presentation to Umbrella Academy on Netflix, and maybe what Umbrella Academy did with those graphic novels is done better than what Doom Patrol does here. Yeah. Okay, Euphoria. Here we go. Is there any show truly like Euphoria? I don't think so. I think it's pretty incredible. Argue with me if you want, but I think Euphoria is great. I find it difficult to describe if you haven't seen it, but it's largely Zendaya playing a Gen Zer named Rue who struggles with addiction in a modern-day contemporary setting. The final 2 episodes of the 2nd season are probably some of the best TV I have ever seen. That play, Lexi's play, oh my god. Yeah, that puts Euphoria to the top of this list, seriously, people. The lighting and the cinematography, amazing. It's just an aesthetic wonder. The Zendaya in the lead role, incredible too. The supporting cast, unbelievable. Some of these episodes tear you apart. I'd be lying if I said I hadn't shed tears watching Euphoria. And the soundtrack, so good. Labyrinth comes through. Oh my god. Again, yeah, check it out if you haven't seen it. If you're Gen X or older, you may have difficulty with some of the graphic nature of the content, which I think is largely geared toward younger audiences. Yeah, but top of the list. Okay, Flight of the Conchords. Brett and Jermaine, hilarious. Quite good. This one is quite good. It's a comedy. It's a musical comedy. If you haven't heard of Flight of the Conchords, I mean, I get it. This is also a little older show, but it's hilarious. They are a musical comedy duo, kind of like Tenacious D, but they made a comedy show out of them starring. I mean, not only are their musical lyrics very clever, but they are talented actors in their own right. And yeah, very New Zealand, which is never a bad thing. Very enjoyable. Honestly, I don't think you'd say it's dated now. It is from the 2000s, but it's more it's still relevant, and it's more topical to personal life and relationships though. More. Here we go. Game of Thrones, the legendary Song of Ice and Fire series by George R.R. Martin. I read all of the books in 2012, 2013, up until what has currently been written, of course. And we've been waiting, George. And I loved every single season of the show up until the point where they started going beyond the source material off of which it was based. And then ultimately that last season, oh my god, it was just, the ending felt very poorly conceived and executed. And honestly, it just felt like when you're playing a video game and you get the bad ending, like you didn't do half of what you were supposed to do during this game, and they just gave you the bad ending. Now you have to play through the whole thing, or try again, you know? So yeah, that's kind of, I think, what a lot of readers who love the books are waiting for, is the written conclusion from Martin. I would put it middle of the road because of how they botched the ending. Yeah. It is a little graphic on the sex and violence and nudity. If that's not your thing, I can see how it might not be for you as well. A lot of criticisms there for a lot of people. You know, it's a pretty spectacular medieval fantasy, though, in its own right. It's good for what it is, especially the first seasons, like I said. Magic returns to the world with the rebirth of dragons, which have been extinct for a couple hundred years. Yeah. Hacks. This one stars Jean Smart as Deborah Vance, a kind of semi-washed up Vegas comedian, and Hannah Einbinder as Ava Daniels, her writer assistant. This one is pretty funny. I actually enjoyed this. I have not seen all of the episodes. My wife has, though. I've enjoyed it for what it is. I especially love the contemporary Las Vegas setting. I'm reading Whitehead's The Noble Hustle right now, and also so good. Same thing. But yeah, there's so much to love about a good Vegas set show in modern day. I would recommend. Not amazing. Haven't seen all of the episodes. My wife has. I would say quite good, actually. Yeah. House of Dragon is the more recent follow-up to Game of Thrones. It actually is a prologue, though, to Game of Thrones, occurring 200 years prior to the events of the main series, charting much of the history of House Targaryen. And honestly, it just makes me want a Negroni Spagliato with Prosecco, which is actually quite a bitter cocktail. Pretty disgustingly bitter. I'd say overall, it's roughly net in equal quality to Game of Thrones, with some of the CGI graphics and acting being a marked improvement over Game of Thrones. But it is more of about family dynamics, family struggle, than the Warring Kingdoms story that Game of Thrones is. I can't imagine a lot of people liking House of Dragon who don't like Game of Thrones, or like liking one or the other and not the other. Anyways, both are pretty equal in the middle of the pack for my ranking purposes. The Last of Us. I loved this show, like a lot of people here early in 2023. Just ate this one up. The only thing that I think that would make this a quite good rather than an amazing is that I enjoyed the video game better. I did. I'm so sorry if that's a illegitimate critique of the show. I thought the acting was amazing, though. The game just barely edges it out. I mean, the way Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey portrayed Joel and Ellie, oh my gosh, people. I mean, they bring them to life in a way that you don't get in the game, of course, and top-notch, phenomenal performances. Yeah, quite good. Check it out. Oh, and if you watch the trailer, hey, fair warning. Yes, it's horror. It's lighter on the horror, though. It's actually, I'm usually not somebody who's so into horror, and it's not so heavy-handed on the horror component. Love and Death. Elizabeth Olsen stars in this 2003 miniseries, which is actually the HBO version of a kind of true crime story, real life story, that's also been done on Hulu with the show Candy. And it's the story of the real life murder involving the titular character Candy Montgomery. Yeah, I mean, it's a 1970s crime period piece. Didn't hate it, didn't love it. Also did not see all of the episodes of this one. Caught most of them, though. And yeah, I enjoyed it for what it was. Full transparency, my wife voraciously watched this one, though. So if you're of more of a female persuasion, you may be into it a little bit more. Next is Pacific. So like I said, this is the sort of 2009 follow-up to Band of Brothers. Very, very similar in their style and execution and narrative. Yeah, totally different stories, though. Focuses on the Pacific theater of World War II, a bit of island hopping, shows you this gritty, somewhat horrifically realistic account of World War II. God, I wouldn't have wanted to have fought in it. I would actually put this a tier lower than Band of Brothers, though, just because Band of Brothers was very original. This feels like kind of a reproduction with a slightly different story. They could have been a little more original, I thought. Raised by Wolves. The door is finally open with light for... If you know, you know. It has this haunting intro song. It's an awesome intro, honestly. Like, HBO's so good at the intros, right? We only got 2 seasons of this sci-fi epic by Ridley Scott before it was canceled by HBO. I liked this one. It did have a creepy tone. Maybe that's why it got canceled. It had this, like, darker, creepy sci-fi undertone to it. Very Ridley Scott in its meeting of evolution and religion and mysticism and science. Like in the late 22nd century, I want to say, Earth has been destroyed by warring, like a religious atheist war kind of sparked by technology that we've been beamed from an extraterrestrial civilization, the Mithraics. And with this Mithraic technology, you know, the survivors leave Earth for Kepler 22b or something like that. And it kind of is about a family drama where a group of human survivor children are raised by androids. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the darker, creepy tone turned people off. I don't know. Middle of the road for me. Righteous Gemstones. Okay, so I've only watched a couple episodes of this one, but it's pretty funny. It's very funny, and I have some deep appreciation for John Goodman as an actor, universally. He's very talented. In this show, he plays the patriarch of a evangelical megachurch pastor. You know, that's what the show is about. It is a modern kind of southern, maybe South Carolina, like almost Baptist-esque, evangelical though, megachurch. Yeah, it's very satirical in tone, and that tone for me detracts a little bit. I mean, it's a comedy, but the tone of the satire takes a little bit of it out of it for me. A very interesting look at the state of modern American Christianity, and it's not too bad or harsh or anything, but it does poke at some pretty big issues with modern American Christianity, though. It's worth a watch. I'd say it might be a little meh for me, though. Yeah. Search Party. I absolutely loathed this show and could not finish the second season. DNF did not finish that one. It starts as a pretty decent modern New York City millennial hipster story in the first season, and then it totally just jumps the shark in the second season. And it gets bad. Just bad. It didn't even have to have a second season either, because the first season ends perfectly with her death. Sorry, spoilers, but I mean, it is the natural conclusion to the show, and then they just have to, I don't know, and they gotta bring her back to life. This is bottom tier HBO, and honestly, the show just leaves me feeling gross. I don't know why. It's just that bad. Silicon Valley, an absolutely hilarious show. The story of a Silicon Valley startup, you know, kind of pre-COVID, story of Pied Pipers, the company with Richard Hendricks, the lead character. Oh my god, it's so funny. TJ Miller as Ehrlich Bachman, the incubator founder, and Jimmy Yang as Jin Yang. Oh my god. It's an absolutely hilarious show, especially if you've spent any time in or around the world of Silicon Valley or tech startups. This one is quite good. Yeah, almost an amazing would recommend. I'll just say quite good, just to not detract from those. The Sopranos. Okay, now we're going back in time. This one takes me back to high school, but it's the only one that I have not on this list that I have not seen more than a season of. But I really liked it for, I think it's one of those enduring shows, honestly. Like, it's a legendary show. The story of Tony Soprano, a New York City mob boss who begins to go to talk psychotherapy, something which is absolutely taboo and not permitted within the mafia. So therein, hilarity ensues. Not hilarity. I mean, it's more of a drama in tone. There's funny moments, but it's pretty sweet. It's one of the better, like, modern day mafia stories. I mean, what else is there? Like, Godfather 3 is pretty modern. Quite good. Sopranos is quite good. Okay, Station 11. This is a single season show adapted from Emily St. John Mandel's novel of the same name. There you go. Now an original series on HBO Max. Oh my god, I've been saying HBO this whole time, and now it's just called Max, but Anyways, whatever. The book is also very good, especially if you love post-apocalyptic Shakespeare. The story takes place largely in the Great Lakes region in the show, between kind of Chicago and Michigan, like west and northern Michigan. It's pretty cool. It is different from the book. The book it basically starts exactly the same, and then it tells more or less a somewhat different story, like a totally different plot story from what the show does. So if you enjoyed one or the other, check the other out, because it's pretty sweet, honestly. This was a quite good for me. I mean, I love the like the kind of Lake Michigan's lakeshore setting too. It was very cool. And who doesn't love the Shakespeare, especially as it's performed in the show? The culminating episode where they're performing Hamlet. Succession. You may have guessed this would be in the top tier seat for me. It's an amazing show that just wrapped up here in 2023, especially if you've seen my other video, which talks about Succession. It's kind of a modern corporate boardroom drama based on largely King Lear, though, as some of you have also noted to me, there are elements of Macbeth and Richard III in there. Absolutely. I don't know, it's just an amazing show. The writing is pièce de résistance. Some people call this wealth porn. I would disagree. While yes, it does focus pretty acutely on the lives of the ultra high net worth, I don't think it glorifies it like some of these other shows, Suits, Billions do, in gratuitous ways. It's more satirically making a kind of clever, smart commentary on the lives of wealth that so effectively absorb these people. It shows us all the problems of the cast of characters right alongside all of the privilege that they live within. Acting is amazing. Acting is amazing in this. It's witty, fast, and an incredible cast with Brian Cox, Jeremy Irons, Sadie Sink, Kieran Culkin, and Alan Ruck, and rounding out the primary roles. Check it out if you haven't. Amazing. Would 100% recommend. Veep is a little older now and stars Julia Louis-Dreyfus as the American vice president, who I think becomes president in later seasons. Correct me if I'm wrong. This did not finish for me also. I don't know. I struggled through a couple episodes and then just couldn't after that. It's not horrifically bad, but it's not good. I know a lot of people love this. This is my opinion only. A lot of people enjoy this show, but for me, it's a comedy that's just not funny. And if I'm not laughing and it's supposed to be funny, I don't know, something's wrong. I don't know. Yeah. Watchmen is a great graphic novel by Alan Moore that was adapted into a film in 2009, and this show is actually a separate story that takes place 34 years after the events of the original Watchmen story, in an alternate reality, and it weaves in the events of the Tulsa Massacre historically into the more modern Watchmen superheroes that the show focuses on. It's quite good. Yeah, I would say it's quite good. I don't know, maybe it's a little more middle of the road for me. I really liked it. I wanted to like it more. I can't say what I felt it was missing, though. I can't put my finger on it. I don't know. Whatever. We'll say it's quite good. It's better than average. It's quite good. Yeah. Westworld is better in the first and second season than it is later on. It's a cool novel idea and is actually a remake of another TV show of the same name from the 70s, I want to say, or maybe early 80s, directed by Michael Crichton. And yeah, it's a cool idea, but it gets pretty bad toward the end also. Like, between Westworld and Game of Thrones, they have a habit HBO of doing this. The recent show here features an all-star cast and prompts some pretty deep philosophical questions about the nature of humanity, consciousness, evolution, robots taking over the world. I'd say it's worth checking out if you are into sci-fi westerns like Stephen King's The Gunslinger, the Dark Tower series, or think you might be, since that's not a terribly common genre. For me, it goes into bad though. Sorry to say. It just, I don't know. It's the ending. It goes downhill. And finally, last but not least, White Lotus. White Lotus probably also takes the cake for me. I have loved this show since it debuted in 2021. One of my favorite HBO shows. I know a lot of other people love this one too. Really awesome writing and perfect storylines, just how they really come together as the season goes. Each season is an independent story, though there is kind of linking causal connections between the two seasons. First season takes place in Hawaii. I want to say Oahu, maybe Big Island of Hawaii. And then the second season takes place in Sicily at the White Lotus resorts. They're effectively kind of a, tourist resort, all-inclusive, where these very funny casts of characters are assembled through different kind of groups and parties, and the interrelationships and dynamics that form and emerge between them, and why they're on vacation, what they are going through in their own lives, and what they really want out of their trips. Awesome. Deserves every Golden Globe and Emmy that it's nominated for or won. Amazing show. If you haven't seen it, totally recommended. Go check it out if you haven't watched White Lotus. But that's it. That's the end of our list. There's our tiers. Pretty good distribution here, I feel like. Feeling happy about this. Yeah. Comment below. What are your thoughts? Have you seen these? Which do you want to watch? Is there anything I should watch based on what I've given you here? Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you all. Would you like more of this content? Let me know below too. Feel free to like and subscribe. We'll see you soon. Take care, guys.